I want you to imagine for a moment that you are on a sinking ship with your child. The water is rising, fear grips you, your heart races, then you see it. One life jacket, only one. Do you put it on yourself or do you give it to your child? Most parents wouldn't hesitate. They would hand that moment of hope to their child. But what if that decision was taken from you? What if the life jacket didn't fit your child, no matter how hard you tried? It didn't fit. How would you feel to survive while your child is left behind? The relationship between guilt, fear, and hope is complex. I share this story because it reflects the mental health journey of parents living with Facioscapulohumeral Muscular Dystrophy. Today, the world begins to open clinical trials for adults. There is hope, but also heartbreak. Because while parents can finally access potential therapies, their children cannot. No parent should ever have to choose hope for themselves over hope for their child. Tonight's theme is Imagine. But at the FSHD Global Research Foundation, we don't just imagine the future, we build it. When we started this foundation, hardly anyone had heard of FSHD. There were no diagnostics, no data, no roadmap for a cure. But we imagined a world where that could change, and we built it. We funded the world's best medical research, brought the brightest minds together, and united the world to fast-track therapies. Then we imagined something bolder: clinical trials in Australia. We built our own biotech company to accelerate medical research from benchtop to bedside. We created global trial-ready infrastructure. We became Australia's peak body for patient advocacy and empowered our patient community by developing the Cure FSHD app, launching the world's first clinical trial passport balloon program. Thanks to 18 years of relentless work and the unwavering support of our donors, with no government funding, we did it. What was once a dream is now a reality. We have brought FSHD clinical trials to Australia. But our work is not done. These trials bring hope to adults living with FSHD, but not yet to our most vulnerable, our children. We cannot safely extend adult trials to them without more research, more data, and more investment. This is a solvable problem, and together we can solve it. FSHD is a family disease, passed from parent to child, threading guilt, fear, and hope throughout generations. Early onset FSHD is the most severe form of the disease, with many children losing the ability to walk before they turn 7. At times, I wonder what's worse: the guilt a parent carries knowing they passed FSHD onto their child, or the fear a child carries watching their parents' strength fade while facing the uncertainty of their own future. Neither is worse. From every angle, it is simply heartbreaking. Tragically, for some in our community, this cycle becomes unbearable, leading to the unthinkable. But for others, there is hope. Hope that we can be the generation to break this cycle. Tonight, I'm honoured to introduce someone very special. A man whose courage, vision and determination brought this foundation to life. My father, Bill Moss, AO. Bill has lived with FSHD for over 70 years, diagnosed in his late 20s at a time when doctors knew very little about the disease, and information could only be found in encyclopedias. He faced a lifetime of uncertainty and challenge. From his remarkable career at Macquarie Group to founding the FSHD Global Research Foundation, he continues to inspire both medical research and families affected by FSHD all around the world. He is my mentor, my best friend. My father taught me to be a catalyst for change in this world, and I'm so proud to chair this foundation with him by my side. Please join me in welcoming Bill Moss, AO.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Dad, I'm going to ask you a few questions, starting with, you were diagnosed with FSHD 43 years ago, aged 28. Did this diagnosis explain the deterioration in your body from your early childhood?
Oh, definitely, Natalie. From a very young age, I could never blow up a balloon. That was the first thing I remember. I could never blow a balloon. I could never kick a football. I couldn't catch a cricket ball. I had difficulty walking up steps, riding a bike. I walked with a limp. I could never go to the beach because I couldn't walk in the sand. And I never, that's all through that period, I never met anyone with FSHD. So I suppose, on reflection, I lived my life in hope. I never saw myself as having a disability. It was a subject I never discussed with anyone around me through the whole childhood period.
Tell me about the moment when you were told you had FSHD.
I remember sitting in the neurologist's office. He told me I had FSHD. He opened an old leather book, like a medical encyclopedia. He looked up FSHD and started reading it to me. He told me I'd be in a wheelchair before the age of 50. His advice was I should relax, not work, don't work very hard, I should enjoy life while I still could. He also told me that FSHD was hereditary and I had a 50% chance of passing FSHD on to my children. So I should think very carefully about having a family.
At this time, what emotions were running through your mind about you and your family's future?
A lot. I think fear affected everyone around me, including me, but it affected them very differently. Initially, my focus was on my future. What would I be? How long could I work? Would I ever be able to have a family? Could I keep a job? And what would happen as I got towards a wheelchair? Who would look after me? My wife was very worried about having children and the financial security for a family going forward. Who would work? Who would pay the rent? I never really thought through the implications for my parents at that time. However, they were struggling to cope with the guilt, believing that one of them had passed FSHD on to me. While the wider family were very busy theorising about every distant relative who could be a potential carrier.
Well, FSHD is genetic. Today, a simple blood or saliva test can map the genetic link. But 50 years ago, you didn't have this technology. Tell me more about your parents and how their lives changed when you were diagnosed.
Well, my parents had no physical symptoms. They both worked very hard and long hours in factories and gardens. My three sisters, who were older than me, also had no physical symptoms, and they were very actively involved in top-level sports. My father was never tested. My mother lived her life believing she had passed FSHD on to me, but she never wanted to discuss this with me. It wasn't until the foundation started using genetic saliva testing and methylation measurement that my mother and the rest of my family were finally tested. By this stage, my mother was 95. The results showed that my mother never had FSHD. She never passed it on to me, but she believed that she had, and she carried that guilt for 38 years of her life after my diagnosis. My results, however, showed that I was born FSHD mosaic. Now, my mother never knew about FSHD mosaic, and she never knew that FSHD mosaic parents, me, had a much higher risk of developing, their children had a much higher risk of developing early onset FSHD. So the risk on me having children, they could be very severely affected.
That means FSHD can start in any family tree, regardless of the parents' genetics.
Yes, that's correct. Anyone in this room could have this in their family. FSHD mosaic is the first case in a family's genetic line of FSHD. It can happen anywhere, it can happen randomly, and the problem is you can't see it coming because you don't have the symptoms.
So, with all of that knowledge, tell me about your decision to have children and the fear that your children might inherit FSHD, which was a 50% chance.
Well, a long time ago, as you said, we didn't have the data, we didn't know. I thought my life was very good. I was very successful, had a good job, I was progressing quickly, I'd been travelling the world. I asked myself, if I had a choice to live the life I have, having FSHD, or not exist at all, which one would I choose? And I very clearly said I'd rather live. So after long discussions with my wife, we decided to literally spin the wheel and have children.
Watching me and my brother grow up, not knowing if we had FSHD must have been very difficult as a parent.
Yeah, it was very scary because every single movement you and your brother made, I'm watching to see what's going wrong. And you know, if they couldn't play sport correctly or they had a bad day, I'm thinking that's FSHD. It was very worrying. But after my diagnosis, I decided I wanted to learn about FSHD all I could. So I did a lot of travelling, and I decided to make this a hobby. I met as many people in the world as I could that had this disease. I travelled to Rochester Children's Hospital in the USA. This was the epicentre of FSHD testing globally. So I met lots of children, their parents and adults living with FSHD, and for the first time I could see the severity in the progress of this disease and what it could really do. I took you, Natalie, and your brother there when you were 5 and 7 to be tested. Unfortunately, the results were lost in the hospital, so we never got those results. But physically, you and your brother never showed symptoms of FSHD for your age.
Yes, Dad, I remember that family holiday in hospital with ice cream and needles. Thank you very much. We have been on better. But my results were lost then in America and actually also twice in Australia. So with my generation's technology, it still took me 27 years to learn I do not have FSHD. Now, Dad, over the years, you've met some incredible families living with FSHD, as we both have. Was there a particular person who left a lasting impact on your determination to fight this disease?
I think definitely Monica Ellis. Monica was one of our foundation patrons. She was the one that I've met that was the most severely affected, having FSHD. She was diagnosed at just 5 years old. She spent her early years in a wheelchair, and as a teenager, she lived in a wheelchair that turned into a bed where she laid flat on her stomach due to her extreme muscle loss. But despite this, she was an extraordinary artist who painted using her mouth. She couldn't talk, but she could paint. Monica passed away at a very young age, and I remember attending her funeral. It left a very profound impact on me and this disease.
Yeah, she's an amazing, amazing woman. Inspired me. FSHD is such a cruel, cruel disease. It takes lives too young, far too young. If you had met Monica before deciding to have children, do you think I would be born?
Well, this is a question I've not been able to ask myself all this time. I just simply look at my beautiful grandchildren and know that I made the right decision.
I think you did, Dad. You definitely made the right decision. Well, you made the right decision, but you also made the FSHD Global Research Foundation. Tell me in one sentence, why Bill Moss decided to fight back? Why did you fight this disease?
I made the decision to fight because I thought if FSHD was going to destroy my life, potentially my family's, and the life of all those I've met around the world with FSHD, I would do all I could to destroy it.
Well, thank you, Dad. Thank you for sharing your story with us tonight.
Thank you, Dom. Thank you very much.
The world continues to advance in remarkable ways. Yet for families living with FSHD, the same emotion still echoes: guilt, fear, and hope. FSHD is a family disease, and it requires a family solution. I would like to sincerely thank you all for being here tonight, for listening, for contributing, and for learning about this really important cause. With your support, we can turn hope into action. We can fund paediatric research and give children and families the chance to fight and thrive together. Imagine the impact we can have tonight. Thank you and enjoy your evening.